What's up, everybody? It's Luke James, not the singer. If you're looking to get your music reviewed, you can hit up this email that's right here. But today I'm going to hit you up with my thoughts and opinions on this album from Benny the Butcher called Burden of Proof. Now, Benny the Butcher is a rapper who's coming out of Buffalo. He's signed to Griselda Records, and he has really been consistent over the past couple of years, dropping a slew of great projects. On top of all that, this new project is produced by Hit Boy, who's had a hell of a year himself because he's produced for Big Sean, Nas, and many other people. So when you see those two coming together to work on this project in 2020, I think the expectations were very high, and thankfully, this shit turned out as dope as we expected, and I can see this making my year-end list. Now, one of the first things I noticed here is how Hit Boy's production is so different from what we've heard from Alchemist and Derringer, two people who usually work with Benny the Butcher, giving him that gritty and grimy sound. This time around from Hit Boy, you're mostly getting that bright and soulful sound, so it did take me a little bit to get used to that because it was something a bit different for Benny, but overall in the end, after giving this multiple listens, I did find this refreshing, and I can certainly appreciate that he took that risk. In particular though, you're really going to pick up on some late 90s / early 2000s Rockefeller vibes with some of this production, so if you like that style, I think you're going to love the beats that you're getting on here. For example, the song New Streets has that classic Kanye soul sound to it, as Benny calls out the fake rappers and honestly speaks on the ups and downs of the streets. And then on Burden of Proof, we're getting a horn banger that sounds like something Jay-Z would have had on the blueprint. On top of all that, you got Pain in the Ass on here talking a bunch of shit, just like he used to do on some of those old Jay-Z records. So this is a really dope track here, it's one of my favorites, and I also appreciate Benny spitting, yo, last year was about Brandon, this one about expanding. He's really just opening up about his growth as an artist and also as a businessman, and this growth and maturity is a very common theme throughout this project. He gets very introspective and thoughtful on here, which is a little bit different from some of that street shit he was bringing in the past. Not to say that he wasn't getting insightful and introspective on some of that older work, but this time around he really is coming from a different place, like he's dealing with success and even with fame, because on the song called Famous, he's pondering what it's like to be famous and some of the things that come along with it as he spits. They ask me how it feel, I guess niggas want to know, I chose money over fame, how I end up with them both. There's also a great vocal chopped beat on here that I thought was pulled off really well, and on Trade It All, he's turning his pain and struggle into art, as he says, sold my story to the world so everything I afford came from me losing my brother, all the pain I absorbed. These more introspective moments really show us how far Benny has come, and thank God I Made It goes into this even deeper. You're getting another great soulful track here, as well as some nice vocals from Queen Naija, and there was a moment on here that really stuck out to me because Benny's speaking on his brother who passed away quite a while ago, and how whenever he looks at his nephew, he can see his brother, and it almost haunts him a little bit just to see that. He can't look at him for too long, which I thought was a pretty powerful moment there coming from Benny. So where other projects of his were getting more into the grit and grime, like Tana Talk 3 and The Plugs I Met, this one right here has him focused on growth and introspection. So when you take that along with the brighter, more soulful Hit Boy production, you are getting a different sound from Benny here, and I think the risk worked out very well in his favor. But just to be clear, you still are going to get gritty moments all over this project and within these tracks, including on Sly Green. This one is a gritty hustle anthem that's named after a Buffalo street legend, and here Benny spits, I'm on point when my enemy's not, I shoot with nobody round me like a penalty shot. Now I also got to get into some of the features here because I think they are very well placed. You got Rick Ross on Where Would I Go. This is a track where they're just boasting over this lavish production that you would expect from really any track featuring Rick Ross. There's also some more insightful introspective moments from Benny, who's speaking on dealing with severe asthma. And then on One Way Flight, we got Freddie Gibbs joining in for one of the standout cuts on the album. The soulful beat on this is absolutely glorious, and Benny had some dope bars because he's getting philosophical with this shit as he says, what's a stage with no mic and no voice of a poet? What's more important, the flower or the soil that grow it? As for Freddie though, he got some funny ass lines on here, like when he says, I control my bitches OnlyFans, I got computer work, and hoes get fucked and sent home early, just like the Clippers. So if you're a fan of the LA Clippers, I'm sure that one might have stung a little bit, since they got roasted and sent on their way. I thought that was a pretty funny line from him. There's also a quintessential Griselda posse cut, but this time around it has more of a soulful feel. It's called War Paint, and I think Conway really stole the show on this, man. He had one of my favorite verses on that album actually, because he's also getting insightful and introspective as he's opening up about when he got shot and all the stuff that he suffered because of that, including the doctor telling him that he might be paralyzed because of this. Really just a powerful moment. And there's also another moment that takes us back to the late 90s and early 2000s here, because we get the Mad Rapper doing a little skit on the end of this one. Really taking me back to my high school days with some of the production styles, some of these features and all that little stuff like that. So I thought it was pretty cool how he did that, and I think that's a talking point that a lot of people are going to bring up. To keep it moving though, I got to point out the song Timeless. This one is an all-out banger featuring Big Sean Sean and Lil Wayne. And again, we're coming back to that early 2000s style because Lil Wayne is on here sounding like that vintage Wayne. This is actually the Wayne that I prefer. I think he absolutely bodied this verse, but if you prefer the more, syrup sipping auto croony Wayne, this might not be your cup of tea. But for an old head like me, this is just shit that I like from Wayne. I like when he works this style, and he fit perfectly on this beat. So that was another great moment, and really the only feature that I didn't like on here was that Dom Kennedy hook on Over the Limit. I just thought that hook was kind of dry, and overall this song would be my least favorite, but I did find that 80s inspired production to be pretty cool, if nothing else. All in all though, I liked every other song better, so that's why it's my least favorite. But at the end of the day, man, this is going to be an 8 out of 10 for me, and I can see this making my year-end list just like some of the other Griselda projects. Of course, just to be clear, I did like Conway's a little bit better than this. I would put this one above Pray for Pears, as well as Who Made the Sunshine, because that was probably one of the worst Griselda releases this year in my opinion. Not that we have to compare them all, but we know that's a discussion that always comes up with Griselda. So this one and From King to a God, those would be my two personal favorites, with From King to a God being in the #1 spot coming out of Griselda. But even still, man, I thought this was a really dope project. I don't really have too many complaints with it, but I'd also say that I didn't get a lot of wow, holy shit moments, where I'm jumping out of my seat because he was hitting me with some really ridiculous lines or crazy concepts that I had to rewind or decipher. Just stuff like that, that stuff that I look for personally. Not everybody cares about that. I didn't get too many moments there, but that's not to take too much away from this because it's still a very enjoyable listen. It's Benny bringing a refreshing spin on his usual style and sound, and I appreciate the growth throughout. So I think it's a dope project, and on the single Legend, Benny is rapping about how he feels like a legend already. Maybe he's not there yet, but as he continues to build up this great discography, I think he's going to get there. So that was another solid track, and I could feel the confidence he had on there. It's very well deserved. So that's how I feel about this one. You guys let me know down below how you feel about it. I also want to know how you would rank the Griselda projects so far this year. How would you rank Benny's projects? Is this your favorite one? Personally, I do like Tana Talk 3 a bit more. It just hit me at the right time, I think, in that gritty, grimy style with the storytelling and vivid street imagery was powerful. But they're all different projects, so I could understand people having different favorites or ranking them in a different manner from how I do. That's just what I got to say about all that. So anyway, I'm just rambling now. That's that. Make sure you do that good YouTube and social media stuff where you show me love and you show me lots of it. Thank you for watching, everybody. I will see you next time.